It's caramel. It's impossible. It'll take 5.5 seconds.
Welcome to What's the Story? You just heard us talking about whether we can eat a caramel in 3 seconds. I don't think that's a possibility.
Right? Is there a Joey Chitwood like eating contest for like caramels?
Oh man.
Yeah, it's nothing like peanut brittle, is it?
No. Caramels and Honeys. Yeah, and neither one of those are easy to absorb without.
I think there's a dentist black market on them. Right? They get that stuff out there. What pulls your teeth out?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So one of the things in the last segment, welcome everybody, by the way. I hope that, well, it's probably going to take a little bit before we get some folks in because we have to do a new link. And so it takes a bit for everyone to jump on. But in the meantime, I see that you are slowly trying to unwrap that caramel.
I'm trying to do it quietly.
That cellophane is loud.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
No, you go right ahead. You go right ahead and do your thing.
It sounds like you're getting
It's
a personal
just fine.
shrink wrapping.
That's right. A little bit
You
of
know,
shrink wrapping happening.
I don't know how they wrap these things, but you just can't get them unwrapped.
No, I know they're very difficult to unwrap. I agree with you. Yes, and it's funny how you hear it in the headsets, right?
It is.
Yep. So there is a little bit of a delay, so we'll have some folks here pretty quick. But in the meantime, we're going to talk a little bit today about some bookstores. I've also got something about the Google News Initiative.
The what?
And the Google News Initiative. So in the process of checking out the different, wrong one. I probably was sharing the wrong show. Oh, well, what can I tell you?
It's all the same.
It's all the same. What can I say? Oh, they'll watch the old show and it'll be just as good.
It's Chuck and Doug.
Oh, so here's our more current one. There we go. So if you've just joined us, welcome. And I was starting to say that we are going to talk a little bit about bookstores. We're going to talk about the Google News Initiative. Earlier in the last segment, we talked about Google, how they rated the searches for elections and what people are searching on Google, and all three of us said we don't use Google. So, you say Google it, we don't Google it. We DuckDuckGo.
We have to take it a step further than just making that statement. The reason we don't use Google is because they can't be relied upon to tell the truth. They have an agenda, and they could mix those up, whatever their agenda is they're trying to sell.
It's true. There is an agenda going on there, just like there is. We were off air. We were talking about, and I made them stop talking. I said, no, we got to talk about that on air. We were talking about the media and the role that they play in the assassination attempt. And it's going around social media, the fact that CNN was at that rally, and they haven't been at a rally in, gosh, I don't know how long.
Well, and they said he fell down.
I know. And then they said there were loud pops.
And the way the media, and I was watching that, they were not allowed to use the word assassinate until one of the experts used it. Yeah. And this is like a half an hour after it happened. It was an assassination from word go, and they didn't want to use it because it's unpeaceful. They lost all credibility with me, all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I lost credibility with them for
right, but for me, it's issue by issue.
I think it's hard because I think that we want them to be credible. We want to say, okay, we can watch again. Maybe they're telling the truth now. I mean, it's interesting to me because you really do want to believe them. You don't want to. Your whole life you watched the news and felt like they were giving you good information, and now
they just omit stuff that matters to us.
Well, and it's interesting because Google, whom we know we don't trust, is now dedicated. This is from their Google News Initiative. We're dedicated to working with the news industry so that global newsrooms and local papers alike can flourish.
Watch out, folks. Yeah. Watch out. And I've had this discussion with my son. He's like, Where's the news? Where do you get it?
You don't. You have
To get it from
search.
multiple
Right. You
sources
have to
and
go to
come up with
multiple-
your own.
That's right.
Google, it's just like a marketing company. They just tell you what's been searched. They
Right.
don't tell you anything.
Not only that, but with this Google News initiative, their mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
Yeah.
Well, why would they have to make anything useful or accessible when it's
Isn't-
all out there?
Well, right. Isn't
Why do you
news
have to
doing that?
direct it?
Right.
Right?
You
I mean,
just report it.
so in 2018, so this has been going on since 2018 that they started this.
Publicly.
Right. We launched the Google News Initiative to scale our work with journalists, publishers, they haven't called me, and industry leaders in order to help build a resilient future for news around the globe. What does that mean?
Can I
Why-
just stick my finger down my
Yeah,
throat
exactly.
and go,
Yeah, over the past 20 years, we've collaborated closely with the news industry. Well, you noticed.
I was going to say closely with the Biden
Yeah,
administration.
and provided billions of dollars, billions with a B, to support the creation of quality journalism in the digital age. So you have them driving the news, so to speak, right? Why do they need to? Isn't that what these, and there are only 6 different organizations that own these large news media corporations. So you're really not getting a lot of variety as it is. But, you know, and that's why I lean more toward the conservative, online folks. You go onto Rumble and you search around and find different people, and you find the one that resonates with you, and you listen and you find out, how do they report that? Check over here. How is that being reported? You know, look at the mainstream. How are they reporting? And then come up with your own idea of what's true.
Well, you know, there's an old adage that attorneys used to use all the time, and that was very simple. They said, "Well, when were you lying, then or now?" Well, it's very true.
It is
How
true.
many times do we give them? Are we going to give them a pass on lying to us? And now they say, "Oh no, we're just reporting the news." Well, I don't think so. And not only that, let's go back to NPR a little bit. They get public money. Matter of fact, I think most of their money comes from the public trough. They have 14 reporters. All 14 of them are Democrats. Now,
Wow.
do you think you're going to get?
balanced reporting.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a perfect word. Balanced. No, and even if they say we report everything honestly, but if you read it, it is always tainted. They're reporting the news, but it's tainted with a liberal bent to it. So,
Enigma.
yeah, it's absolutely.
Did either of you see the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Catherine Herridge? She's a good reporter, and she was fired from CBS a while back, and they withheld her documents, her contacts, all of that kind of stuff. They kept it from her. Did you see that?
Well, same as us in our databases.
Yeah. Oh, for your mortgage stuff?
Right company, same kind of space.
But
Same.
she's never had that happen before. She's left other places and they didn't do that. So
Yeah, she started working for
that's
somebody with a
interesting.
clue.
So, in other words, the word does fit. It was a real enigma that they hadn't before, but they're doing it now.
apparently, yeah. What a shame, huh? What a
It's
shame.
just being dishonest.
Well, it is because, these are confidential sources. This is, and how does she know who got that? And, it's just not good. It's just not good.
Well, when they don't report something, that's almost a lie. Almost comes up to the lie category. When they say it doesn't fit our agenda, so we won't report it.
Yeah, if you haven't watched that and you want to hear some interesting stuff, you can search for Tucker Carlson. It's not one that you have to be a member to watch. It's one of the public ones that he did with her. And I just thought it was pretty informative as far as what goes on. And she's very balanced. When you were talking about balanced, I thought of her because there's very few journalists that I look at and think, that's a good journalist, off the top, right? Because a lot of them, they're angry and they're forceful and everything, and you kind of wonder, I prefer the more balanced, just analysis, right?
I just read something
Where you don't know what their party is.
this morning when I was, looking at all the stuff on the internet. It had the picture of two very, very nice looking people, a man and a woman. And, behind them, it's news on such and such, wherever it was from. And the caption was, remember, these people are actors and they're just reading what their producer tells them to. So this is what did they used to call that? This is golden the golden crown syndrome. Basically.
Marathon man.
Yeah, I mean, where these people, what they do is they get friendly looking people to read this stuff. Well, oh, look at that guy or that gal,
Not all
whatever
of
it
them
is.
are that. A lot of them do their research.
They really look trustworthy, don't they? Those aren't their words. Those are the
media. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, but this Google initiative, it says alongside, hold the phone here, governments, right? Civic and community leaders and other companies, we're playing our part to make more reliable information more accessible. Yeah.
Hey, let's go. Hey, let's do a flashback to when JFK was assassinated, and they did the super government investigation.
Oh, well.
Exactly.
What a joke.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, we still don't have those documents.
And we still don't know the truth, do we?
And it's because those guys, the way they died, right?
Yeah.
Just bam, bam.
So Google News Initiative, or Google, was founded in 1998. I didn't know that was the year they were founded. I knew it wasn't that long ago, but 98, that's fairly recent in the big picture of things.
Totally.
To have that much power now, right? 2002, Google News launches as one of the first products outside of core search, organizing news articles to make it easier to see a range of sources on the same topic. Oh, so they can be one-word media? Oh, did I say that out loud? All right. We believe deeply in spreading knowledge to make life better for everyone. It's at the heart of Google's mission. It's the mission of publishers and journalists.
Wait, could you read that again for me, please?
Sure. We believe deeply in spreading knowledge to make life better for everyone.
How is the knowledge that they give going to make life better? So they have to taint it to do that.
And it's at the heart of their mission. So when you really listen to their words, they're telling you the truth.
They are telling you
the truth.
Yeah, that's their mission statement.
Yeah, it's the mission of publishers and journalists. That's probably why I'm not included here.
That's not right.
Well, do you think there's not like Apple Radio, Google Radio that these companies play in their offices? They're just biasing, right? They're influencing the folks they have access to.
Yeah.
So on this program, I think everybody that listens knows we have certainly a conservative bent to us. But the one thing that we try to do through that all, and you can take fault with us, I guess, is we present honest opinions.
Right, but they are opinions. We're not reporting to be giving you news. We may share news that's happening, but we obviously have an opinion, and we're sharing.
I think
you wouldn't expect us to be giving you news.
But guess what? Our news is just as good as their news. Our opinions are just as good as their opinions. And we're doing the exact same thing they're doing.
But we're not trying to say that we're just reporting news.
Right.
And that's the difference.
That is.
It's fine if they wanna have opinion shows, that's all well and good, and that it's a skewed thing, it's fine. I have no problem with that.
Well,
but I do if they're trying to say that this is the news.
And if you don't believe that, go back, listen to the first segment that we had, and listen to the enigma that I was put up with Ed. We had to
Do
be
you
back.
really want to relive that?
That's all right. I'll bring a report next week, right? We'll go look on that. We'll look on that.
That was a little dicey.
Limited. I am doing homework on limited immunity.
I thought that Doug's head was going to explode there for a little while.
Well, it just shows you that, I mean, we both,
we can
both,
disagree.
hey, what's really nice about it, here we're both conservatives
Yeah.
and yet we don't agree.
Necessarily.
That's
right.
what makes
Yeah.
this country, I think, good, is because we can share those
So
opinions.
here's their opinion as far as how they feel they support the news industry. Our decades-long dialogue and collaboration is focused on supporting journalists.
You said they're 28 years old or
Right.
26.
Right.
And they got decades too.
Yeah.
That's weak.
And
from the start.
well, it's a great marketing pitch.
It's weak.
It's focused on supporting journalists, strengthening publishers' business models, and building a global news community.
So is there one person they've helped? One publisher, right? Do they list any examples of folks they've helped?
We help bolster the work of resource-strapped newsrooms by offering digital tools, training, and resources in their 28 years, whatever it is, and resources that aid their efforts to find, verify, and tell engaging stories. Well, I'm only 5 years behind them, right? We've been in business 24 years.
Well,
so
right.
4 years
That's, I
behind.
know that's the definition of their search engine.
That's right.
That's
right.
all it is. That's all they are.
Yeah. So, so here's Data Leads trains over 35,000 people in India to combat misinformation. Who are they to say what is truth and
Best
what
I
is
know, they
not?
are misinformation.
We realize that fighting misinformation is not just the job of journalists. That's not the job of journalists. The job of journalists is to report
Right.
and to tell what they see and what they
That's been out. That's been out the
their
door.
job.
That's been out the door for years.
Oh, it needs a whole society approach. That's what this person
Yeah,
is
let's
saying.
just throw our opinion on it. And,
Well, the best example we can put forward is just what Ed was speaking just a little bit ago, when we were first saw live the president with a bullet wound. Now we all saw that, and yet they were instructed not to use certain words. Why is that? Because it didn't fit their scenario.
Didn't fit the narrative.
Yeah.
Didn't fit the narrative. Yeah, they were saying it was, to not, I guess, spread misinformation. My goodness. If you were sitting there watching this, you knew what happened.
Well, I like when
there was no doubt.
bipartisan. Bipartisan.
Yes.
Both parties are calling for that gal's.
You could tell how they were trying to make issues where there were no issues. One of the things was that they said, the reason his ear is bleeding is because he hit the podium on the way down. Well, wait a minute. I thought you weren't supposed. What's the matter with saying assassination? You just took the other side of that. The other one is, and I had to laugh at
The other side, that's no other side. That's total creative story.
Yeah.
There's no other side.
One of the things that I thought was really funny, they were trying to make an issue with very early on, Trump was saying, "Get me my shoes." And they were trying to make an issue out of that, like he was going cuckoo or something. And the fact was, and they asked him about it, well, what was that? And he says, well, the first Secret Service guy that hit me was so big, hit me so hard, I flew out of my shoes.
Right. Well, and people that have had experiences, dramatic experiences.
Diving for their lives.
Right. They say that you often, I'm sure you experience this as a firefighter, right? people want to get the dumbest things, right? Oh, wait, I've got to go get my
Yes.
fill in the blank,
Yeah.
right? Because in their minds, that's most important,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I think that's really normal. It actually shows his normalness, which you wouldn't really say about Trump very often, right? That he's like everybody else. You wouldn't say that,
Well,
but
yeah,
you can kind of say that about that. It was kind of weird.
I think that maybe there is some type of internal um, uh, issue where they can't say who these guys were, the Secret Service people, by name, who they are protecting the president. Those guys are true heroes because they didn't. That was their job.
And I gotta say, even the DEI hires that you're going to talk about, they did their job, or they didn't, but they were there. They didn't run.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, those shots were firing. They didn't run. They in whatever capacity they could, they did their job.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you know. Let's get back to, because we've talked a lot about that. So to date, because you asked questions about what have they done. To date, the Google News Initiative has supported 7,000 news partners in more than 120 countries and territories through more than $550 million in global funding. So what that says to us is, guess what? They're controlling the news.
Yeah.
They've taken it over.
They're basically saying we do the searches for all those people. Yep. They don't do anything but search, folks. Yep. They're just calling their job more.
It's true. It's true. All right. So that's it with, so now you know there is a Google News initiative that's been going on for quite a few years. And that kind of shares with you.
It just makes you wonder that they're searching for the news. Right?
Well, and it doesn't work. I got to be honest with you. You know, you have to go beyond that, and reporters should be out there beating the pavement and finding those stories.
Well, you know,
like
I shared this a couple shows ago when I was sitting in communications, 911 communications for Los Angeles County Fire Department. We used to get beat calls at night from the news media. I'm not one of them, but most of the major to say, you have anything interesting?
Yep.
And we'd say, no, not really. Well, then, you know, we got used to the voices.
Right.
And so we started making stuff up. And they go, is that true? We go, no.
But you gave them a laugh. That's good. That's building relationships.
Those are the good old days, though. They don't have to do that now.
Yeah. Throw it around. Go ahead, throw it around.
I didn't touch it. It jumped on its own. It was trying to leave.
Yeah. All right. So I had said also in my teaser on Substack.com, hermson.substack.com, that I would talk about bookstores. And I thought this was very interesting because we have a bookstore. And I wondered, you know, are there a lot of bookstores out there right now, and what's going on? So I did find an article, and this particular one came from statistics. And hang on, and I'll find that little article. Maybe I will. All right. Well, over the past decades, there has been a lot of speculation about the demise of the American bookstore, and some of it may not be entirely unfounded. And so the borders and all of those. But today, this is the interesting part. I can't tell you what day this is for today, because in the article that I am looking at, and I'm going to share it with you. Share my screen. 12 stats on the state of bookstores. And if you look, it's Open Education Database, and there's no date. So I've got stats here that tell me, now I can tell from the dates within the article kind of roughly where this falls. But one of the things I don't like about the internet is that oftentimes you find this where they don't put a date on the article. So you have no idea.
I won't read it. I won't read it.
I couldn't find any other stats except this. So that were, you know, at least giving some real numbers. So what they're saying is that, and I think this was probably roughly around 2012. Okay. There are more bookstores today than there were in 1930, which I thought was interesting. So even in 2012, when things were, kind of tanking, right? Uh, there are around 10,800 bookstores in the U.S. and ranging from small independent retailers to major chains. And yet the number is considerably lower than the number reported in 1997 when there were 1,363 stores. So they had a 12.2% drop, which actually is not as bad as I would have thought. I would have thought it would have been more,
Do
right?
you have statistics there to bear this out? Because there was, with the advent of the internet and what you could download as far as books, people were saying, "Oh, there goes the bookstores.
Yeah, but
Nobody's going to
No,
want
it's
it."
Starbucks.
Yeah,
Well,
It's Starbucks. People used to go to bookstores and do that stuff
right.
until
Well-
Starbucks started selling sugar.
have you seen a trend now back to hardcover?
Oh,
things?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So when
I
it
fell
first
in that
started,
category,
when
yeah.
it first started, print books did decline, but they didn't decline as much as you might have thought. And then it leveled off and actually started to increase again to where people are still buying print.
Yeah.
There's a balance, and I myself said, I know if I were traveling, I'd want an ebook. I wouldn't want to have to take all my books with me if I'm going on a vacation. It'd be great to have ebooks to read, right? Or maybe pick up a book when I got to my destination, but not to have to cart them all with. So that I think is awesome. But at the same time, I think, being a reader, I like reading a book.
I do too.
There's an experience to it. And people that were maybe brought up on ebooks, they may feel that experience is more important to them, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know because it's an experience. When you read a book, I know you're not a reader.
No, I'm into ebooks are like the wrappers on this candy, right? You read them and you throw them away.
And
I'm just saying, that's an ebook.
With an ebook, one of the things that I would like is that so many authors are doing this now. When they write a story, they write it with about 42 stars in there, different names. And I read through that and I go, okay, now who was this guy again? And it would be nice to be able to do a search, go back and see, because I find that with hardcover books, I do that. Wait a minute, who was this guy? Because they introduced him 40 pages ago, and now they're bringing him forward again.
Well, so now I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to share another one because now that I've told you about 2012, let me tell you about today. Because today we have Barnes & Noble hopes to open 50 shops in 2024 amid
really?
Strong sales and significant growth.
What was their competitor that went toes up about maybe 8-10 years ago?
Borders.
What was it?
Borders.
Borders.
Yeah. So they're now looking at 50 shops and that's a good thing. And then I saw another article, which I don't know if I can find, where there were like 200 independents that opened up in the last year. So stores are still thriving to some degree. Absolutely. And people like going to Barnes and Noble. They like going to the small shops like ours and being able to pick up a book for a couple bucks.
One of the problems I have with going to Barnes and Noble, and Debbie and I, I'd say maybe a couple times a month go, is that you're going down through and looking for books and titles, and again that bounces back to what we were saying about what a book cover looks like, because it means a lot to me. Where I find most of the books that I read, somebody has sent me and said, "Hey, I just read this," and I've just finished 2 books that are just like that I wouldn't have plucked out of the Barnes and Noble.
True. It's true. Yeah.
So,
and I think that's kind of for readers. I think that's pretty normal that you're not out there randomly searching for
the reason that I like that is because one of the things that I like is I like history. When I put the book down, and Janice and I have talked about this before, when I will put that book down, I want to say, wow, I learned a lot.
Right.
A lot of these police detectives and these murder mysteries, I put that down and I think, well, whatever.
Well, yeah, but that's entertainment. So you don't like to be entertained with your books.
Well, I am entertained because I'm learning.
I know, but my
But
point
I
is,
don't want to learn anything. When
right?
I'm
He
reading.
doesn't. He likes to read.
Yeah, I
mystery.
want a story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
light
well,
mystery.
that's why you read historical novels, because it's a good story based in something. And I'm reading one. I'm right in the middle of it right now. That again, that was recommended to me, and I definitely wouldn't have plucked this off. It's called Women. Now, this was sent to me, and I thought, oh wow. But the guy who sent it to me says, hey, this is an outstanding book. You cannot put it down. And I've read the first 40 pages in one sitting because it is that good. It's a real page turner. But I wouldn't have plucked that off the shelf.
Right.
I just wouldn't have done. But it's about the
So you
Vietnam
see,
War.
right? But so you see that your expectation that your cover had to sell your book was not necessarily true, because recommendations do a ton for a book.
Oh, absolutely.
So on that note, I'm going to tell you, if you like
wait a minute, Janice.
if you're going to like what I'm going to say, so shh. If you'd like to have a copy of Doug's book, and it's an audio book, or a print, we'll do either one, just get a hold of me, and we have a copy. We'd love for you to do a review. That's all we ask, is just to do a review, because we'd love for other people to read it as well. It's a great book.
See, this just adds credibility, and Janice kids me about this all the time, because when I'm through with a book review, I say they had so many, so many people have written a review on this, like 2,200 or whatever.
So that goes with the Google stuff, right? It's not real.
Some of it is. Some of it is. Because we know that people get reviews. They get real reviews. You know, there are a lot of readers out there that like to review books. So, all right. So on that note, we only have about 15, 20 more minutes. So how about book blitz? Want to do a book blitz? Sure. We don't have a break coming.
Wayne's World. I'm going
to have to find some music for that.
I think we need that, lady.
Yeah.
This is.
And I can add that to the board here.
This is a book, like I say, I just finished yesterday. It was one that was sent to me. I would not have picked this off the shelf, but it's just an outstanding book. But it's an outstanding book for a different reason, or I should say an additional reason. As a matter of fact, and we looked it up last week, because kind of in passing. It's by Ariel Lawhon, and she has 2,317 ratings. But one of the things, and I think I might get buy another one of her books, is because if anybody is interested in writing a book, get this book so you can see the way she writes. She is such a flowery and a what word am I looking for? She explains things so well, and she
descriptive.
Descriptive. That's it. She goes so deep into it. It makes it pop out. And one of the things that I found, and I didn't discover it until I read this book, is that you sit there, and when she starts telling you stories about within the story, you start sinking lower and lower into your chair, and you think, and you start feeling for these people.
That's interesting.
Man, so I mean, that's pretty good author, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Maine, 1789, when the Kennebec River freezes, entombs a man in ice. Martha Ballard is summoned to examine the body and to determine the cause of death. As a midwife and a healer, she is privy to much of what goes on behind closed doors in Hollowell. And I'll leave it at that, because the whole story flows from that. How this guy got frozen in the river, about the river.
He's going to leave it at that, though.
Brevity is not in my vocabulary.
It's all right.
It's a good book. Again, it's called The Frozen River.
Awesome. The Frozen River by
Ariel Lawhon.
Okay. Good old Ariel.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go next?
Movie star, isn't she? Erin? So I went, I always go back to the roots and go simple. And being here in Nevada, how can you go wrong with, we just talked about how Doug reads for education, maybe, and I read for pleasure. What's simpler than a good old cowboy?
Oh, there you
Louis
go.
L'Amour, right?
Oh,
Louis
Louis.
L'Amour
Yeah, we got lots
has
of
written
Louis.
so many stories.
Yep.
All readable. You can put them in your saddlebags. You can, put them and read them anytime. But for you, Jan, and you, Doug, this has an ad in it.
Oh, wow.
Track down and capture exciting Western adventure. Wanted Louis L'Amour collection reward offered. Make your wanted claim and receive your rightful reward. A free authentic Louis L'Amour calendar. A free preview of the best-selling sackets. Right? But who couldn't do a calendar?
Right. It's true.
It's an insert. This is
Yeah.
old marketing, simple
Yeah.
stuff that works.
Yeah, it's true.
But you want a smile on your face in this heat? As the sun goes down, read Louis L'Amour.
Well,
Long ride home.
just looking at this cover here, a good friend, matter of fact, the guy that sent me both these books that I'm reading, his wife says that when she pulls a book and they have a picture of the two characters on the front cover, she hates that. Well, for the very reason
I
that
know
when
why.
somebody
Yeah.
describes it, she wants to come up with the image.
Yeah.
She doesn't want someone forcing the image.
Yeah, it's like when they make movies and,
Yes.
and they destroy your character because the
Yeah.
picture you have of that character is nowhere near
Yeah.
what that one looks like.
And
Okay?
that's why books are better.
Yeah, they are. They really are. They allow,
Imagination is a good
I was
thing.
just going to say they allow your imagination to work. So I just saw this book in my little collection over here. I hadn't shelved it yet. So it's called Dead Wrong, and it's by J.A. Jance. And so I said, well, I'll talk about this. It's a novel of suspense, and I figured I'd probably like it, right? Well, then I opened up the description, and I thought, oh, I got to do this one for sure. Because it is about, and this is, let me tell you the copyright on this, because that's going to be important. Bear with me. 2006. Okay, so it's a while ago,
Yes.
right? All right. Juggling a family and a career is never easy, and it's becoming a real challenge for Sheriff Joanna Brady. Coping with the impending delivery of her second child, as well as a staff shortage, the last thing Joanna needs are two serious crimes. First, the body of an unidentified man is found in the desert, all of his fingers savagely severed. Following the scant clues, Joanna learns that the victim was an ex-con who had served 20 years in prison after confessing to a murder of his pregnant wife. Then one of Joanna's officers is brutally attacked and left for dead. But the murder haunts Joanna. Being a sheriff is no longer an empty position she wants to hold. Somehow it has become what she is. Her job is to avenge man's inhumanity toward man, and finding out who the victim was and why he is dead is what she has been summoned to do with her life. So, then it says, strapping on a bulletproof vest, she'll risk everything to see that justice is done. So, an example of not a DEI hire, right? I mean, at least
I was going to say, you sure that's not about Cheadle?
And no, it's not about Cheadle. That's the point. And it's so funny that I just picked it up, and and you can argue that maybe she shouldn't be in that position, but the attitude that's taken, and it's fiction, right? So I mean, this isn't real, but the attitude that she has is no different than if a man were doing the same job, right? Granted, she's got a family, etc., but so do men. So I just think that the whole DEI hire thing really harms the women who have worked very hard to be in the positions they're in right now and have earned it. And so when you have and you have to work extra hard. You have to be different than what you might be if you were a housewife, right? It's a requirement. You have to, because
You
you're
know-
living in a man's world.
You know, Janice, there's a story that I lived on just exactly what you're talking about. When Debbie and I built this house that we're living in now, we wanted to hire an architect. And people asked me, well, who do you want to hire? And I said, I would prefer a middle-aged woman as an architect. And they said, well, why? And I said, for the obvious, you just hit the nail on the head. She's in a man's world and she has to perform.
That's right. That's very true.
Yeah, but
But
I didn't.
now-
I didn't hire her.
But now DEI is destroying
So,
that even.
but I call it scoreboard, right? Affirmative action's been around against white guys for a long time, right? Best I know, DEI is just shaking up.
It's just another name for it.
Right.
I guess,
It
and it's
No,
in
it is.
and
You're
it's in different spaces. It's
Right.
not just in corporate
Right.
spaces. But for me, it's scoreboard, right? It's how well do you do, right? What's your job? It's a job. You need to be graded on that job. And if you're great at it, awesome. If not, just like everybody else, right? You can't prejudge. In my view, it's scoreboard. Let's look and see what they did. It's
Right.
one of my problems with Washoe County School District. We could talk about the mayor. We could talk about all kinds of people not knowing how to do their
Right.
jobs.
Right.
And that's the issue.
That is the issue. And that's my point. What was expressed in that little statement was, this isn't an empty chair. This is, I got to get the job done.
Right.
And I've got to do it right. And it's who I am.
And you've been
Right.
doing it, right, at
So-
LaRue Press. How long?
24 years.
Right? Shared it with me and Doug for 6-ish.
Yeah.
Right? And all the stuff you do, it's ridiculous to me because you're humble. The women I know that are successful in business, right, just are. They don't need to go, woohoo, look at me. Right? Like everybody. If they say, woohoo, look at me, they're DEI.
Well, let's listen.
That's what I think. It's
Let's-
the hard
let's-
workers.
let's
Well, I
use-
talked to somebody in one of the groups that I meet with for election integrity, and she was so frustrated. She says, I've worked too hard to be minimized in the manner that we are because of DEI. She says, I want to be looked at because of my accomplishments. And I don't want to be
Scoreboard.
judged. Yeah, I don't want to be
Well, let me-
judged based on that, that if they look at me, they think I'm a DEI hire. And I felt sorry, I'm in my own business. I just do what I do. But if you're working for somebody, you're still having to fight that fight. And that's hard. That's
Well,
just,
let me tell you two quick little stories within the fire department.
Guys fight that too. though.
I know.
About-
And that's my point. It is. It's an equal fight
Yeah.
for a different reason, right?
Just about what you're talking about. LA City Fire Department, somewhere around between 6,000 and 7,000 employees, and they have a woman fire chief. You honestly, from your heart, need to tell me that the best qualified person was a woman out of 7,000 people. I'm not buying that. I'm just not buying it.
Maybe
Yeah.
she was the only one that was qualified that applied. You got to look at it that way. Maybe they
Janice,
didn't want to.
you could be right.
I
I
would say
don't-
look at her accomplishments.
Yeah. Well,
And
but
that's,
no, you know,
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not even going to argue about that. But I'm going to say you still have to look
Scoreboard.
at who applied. Yeah,
Well,
Well,
that's scoreboard.
what you say, all of it is correct. Now, come on over to my side of the street with LA County Fire Department. We have about same amount of employees, and someone was asking the fire chief one time about affirmative action, and they said, chief, with affirmative action, do you think you're getting qualified? The best people available? You know what his answer was?
I hate to think.
Yes.
Why do we need the best?
It's a horrible answer.
Well, but it was his marching orders. The board of supervisors, 5 people, said, you will have women integrated within the ranks.
Now,
So how can you say, and what you saw was exactly what happened with the assassination attempt. The women in the Secret Service and the men in the Secret Service are held to 2 different physical standards.
And they shouldn't be.
So
They shouldn't be.
that's right.
I
So-
agree with you on that. They shouldn't be. They should
I
be
don't
able to
know. I
say
think
so.
whether a man or a woman was in job of the debauchery that just happened, either one of them would have gone. Right? I don't think there would have been a favor. There's no way any Secret Service leader could survive an open assassination attempt.
Right. Well, it
I mean, there's
maybe
just- they
wouldn't have
couldn't done
happened had she not been in charge, is the question.
I want to talk just about Trump just for a second. Do you remember when you were growing up and the big whoopee-doo where kids would come up behind you and they'd flip your ear like that and you'd go, wow, don't do that, you know?
Well, some people weren't very good. There's a timing thing.
So everybody knows exactly. He just got shot in the ear. And what does he do? He does all these political gestures. He should have been going, ow, 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 ow. Boy, that hurts.
So we can't forgive, man. As many as experiences as he's had, that's a physical shock.
Yeah.
You get hit, you bleed like that, and it's amazing to me he could think at all and didn't have to be hauled away.
Yeah.
Hey, I can
People
tell
pass
you,
out all the time.
I can tell you as a shooter and having long guns, to make a shot 130 yards away, that's the length of a football field and almost half again. To hit somebody's ear, it's almost impossible.
No, so they got those range finders. They got.
That's what
I
he
mean,
had, too.
you have
Yeah.
scopes. You can put, you can put 10 shots inside of a thing now.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to
Yeah.
talk about, I
I
don't have
can.
time,
What?
but I've got to tell you guys that if you have a moment and you feel like it, look for Chris Martenson. It's Martenson, and his peak prosperity report. He analyzed the gunshots using a program that I actually have on my computer, which is called Audacity, and he analyzed them based on the sound, right? And in his opinion, and if you listen to him, it's a pretty good analysis. There were 2 shooters, at least, maybe 3.
I'll tell you
But
what.
that's just strictly, that's not like pointing anybody out, not calling anybody out. It's
Yeah.
strictly listening to those sounds, listening to those guns, and he knows more about guns than I do. But I mean, I could listen to it and say, "Oh yeah, that's different. That's definitely different." So either I don't know what could have changed from the first 3 and the next 5 or so, and then there was another one after that, which might have been the person nailing the assailant, but who knows?
I read about that because you had suggested that, so
Yeah.
I went on the site and read about it. It is very interesting, but let's analyze this kid for a second. What they're saying is that there's 2 or 3 shooters. They all had to work in conjunction with each other.
And
right?
there are people who are doing geofencing with the cell phones and finding that there are a number of things going on there as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a 20-year-old kid. 20-year-old kid. I don't think he had the mental capacity to get 2 other people to get guns and to shoot from different directions.
Well, he didn't have to. They could have gotten him.
But let me finish that statement for a second.
Only got a couple minutes there, my friend.
Had he have done that, wouldn't there be a trace someplace?
He's the only one in the world that doesn't have a social media profile.
That's exactly my point.
Only one in the world.
Exactly my point. So just given that as a for instance, he wouldn't have drawn 2 or 3 other people in and be in cahoots and say, okay, you go to the water tower.
So what
go
do you
over
say?
here.
What
Yeah,
do you say?
I'm saying it didn't happen.
What didn't happen?
More than one shooter.
So you don't think 2 different assassins could have showed up to assassinate him at the same time and not know they existed?
No.
How would they know?
How do you know that
Yeah.
there wasn't someone else
Yeah.
that sought him out?
Yeah.
What are the chances of that?
Very good, actually.
You think 2 other people besides the shooter come in there? Oh, hi! I see you're
No,
here to
I'm saying
assassinate
that there
Trump,
was
too.
collaboration between the 2 others, 1 or 2 others, and that young man.
Yeah.
I'm saying he didn't do it, or maybe did it, but didn't do it by himself.
You think?
Yeah.
Janice.
Tinfoil hat. Got it.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, Doug. So your grandsons or sons, like my son's 20. So he's right. He's 18 going on 21, but he wouldn't have cojones to do that on his own.
So
He's not
what
doing that by
I'm saying
himself.
to you,
That's
Doug,
my
is you
point.
listen to that analysis and you disagree. You think there was only one shooter.
Oh, no. Let me tell you, yes, I disagree, but I'm open to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, you should listen to it.
Yeah,
you
that's
should listen to it
no, and I
because he's
did.
not trying to identify. He's
And
not
I thought
talking
he-
about the
I
shooter at
thought
all.
he did a good. Maybe
Yeah.
it's maybe when he's hearing his echoes.
No, that's the way he analyzed it. No, I don't believe so because he accounted for echoes.
Yeah,
He accounted for echoes in his analysis.
car
You should listen to
backfiring.
it. Yeah, pops. That's all it was. Pops.
So if you hear Trump, you heard him at the RNC.
You what?
You heard him at the RNC tell his story, and that he could hear them whizzing by,
Right.
and that when he was on the ground, that the Secret Service people, they were right above them, and they could hear those going by. That wasn't BS.
No. And I hate to BS us, but we got about a minute left and we got to go. And
What?
so, yeah, another hour
Already?
down the tubes.
I thought we had another hour.
Yeah, we're just warming up.
Oh, well, next week, guys. So every Tuesday, 3 to 5, right here. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, on lots of different platforms there. Or different pages there. So check us out. It's LaRue Press Network and on America Matters Media, 93.7 FM in the Northern Nevada area. So check that out as well. Lots of good shows there. And we will have more that will be on the evening time. Right now we're 7 to 9, but we'll have others as well. So
Get a clue.
check it out. Check it out.
Seek to understand.
That's right. And join us every week. We want to see you here. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Ed Knoll, Doug Ashby. I'm Janice Hermson, and we'll see you next time.
We got to